Morning, everybody, and welcome to IMGS Data Intelligence 2020. My name is Kieran Clark. I'm the Operations Director with IMGS. With me this morning to kick things off is Garrett Croning, our Commercial Manager. Morning, Garrett.
Morning, Kieran. How are you?
I'm not so bad. Now, you're out there, outside the wall. We're all both in the one building, but we're socially distancing. And that's
Yeah,
what we're being very good. So you're
yeah,
keeping your distance from me, and I'm
true.
keeping my distance from you.
As a general rule.
As a general rule, yeah, yeah, yeah,
General
yeah,
rule.
yeah, yeah. So this is now again. I think with IMGS, we love having face-to-face events, but unfortunately, this year with everything that's going on, we're going to have to do this virtually. So hopefully, everybody enjoys the event. Garrett, I think we've got a lot of good content to show today.
Yeah, really,
So
really excited for it, and a lot of hard work has gone in the backgrounds between the different teams across Snowflake, Sisense, and Talend, and ourselves here on IMGS. So yeah, no, really excited to see it all come together today.
yeah, and this is the first time using the Excel event, so it's a really interesting platform. It's hopefully a great way for people to come together in this event. We're all monitoring the sound quality and everything. So we have our team here. So Tanya is downstairs and she's keeping an eye in the boardroom that everything is working and going all right. Aditya is going to be coming on in the second session. So he's going to be presenting on the predictive analytics workflows. This morning in the first session, we can see Darren Brunt will be here from Talend, and Darren will talk with me about turning data chaos into clarity. And then after the break, we'll have a second session, which will have Snowflake, Colin Moynihan from Snowflake, and Julie from Sisense will be speaking about predictive analytics and how we can turn this really end-to-end solution with our data intelligence platform. So I think we're just about getting ready. I think everybody can see us, hear us. I think everything is working okay. Again, do bear with us. It's the first time using this technology, so a little bit of a challenge, but we will hopefully bear with it, and you'll enjoy the morning. So I think, Garrett, I think we're getting ready to go, are we? I think we're
Yeah, I
ready
think
to
we're
kick
ready
off.
to go. So I'm going to step off, but I will be in the expo, the IMGS Expo, along with the rest of our partners as well. So please drop in and say hello whenever you get a chance, and ask any questions, or if there's any content you see from today's or this afternoon's sessions, just pop in and you can ask us a couple of questions. Myself and Aditya will be in there. Chat to you all soon, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Garrett. Okay, so just as Garrett said, there's a few housekeeping issues before we get going. As I said, there are two sessions this morning. There is the data chaos to clarity, which myself and Darren will speak about now in a few seconds. And then after the coffee break, we'll have the predictive analytics session. Now, you will, by attending this morning, be getting some nice IMGS goodies that you can see on screen now at the minute. But we will also be sending out, if you go to our partners' booths in the virtual lobby, you can go to the expo, you can meet each of our partners. There are people there who will network with you, but if you go in and download a brochure or click on a link in those partner areas, well, then you'll get nice goodies from the partners, which is really useful as well. So you get some nice goodies. If you go into the partner areas, you will be able to see the all the things that are coming from them. So please go into the partner areas. It's only a couple of minutes during the coffee break, so we want you to be able to take a couple of minutes to go for a coffee, get a refreshment, and come back, and then go into the booth and meet our partners. And the session will be open for a few minutes after the event, so you can go in there and you'll see some nice content, and you'll get a nice present in the post in time. The Excel Events tool also has a Q&A panel, so you can ask questions of the speakers, and then if there are any questions, we'll take those questions at the end of each session. So at the end of the data chaos presentation, and then at the end of the predictive analytics. And then and then we can also have Q&A at the end. So to kick things off, what we're really talking about today is the IMGS Data Intelligence Platform. So the IMGS Data Intelligence Platform is comprised of three main market leading solutions. So we have Talend. So Talend means that we can ingest and prepare and take all your data from wherever sources and ensure you have good quality data. We also have Snowflake as our cloud data warehouse. It's been a big week for Snowflake. Snowflake last week were floated on the New York Stock Exchange and their IPO was completed. It was the biggest cloud IPO ever for a cloud software vendor. So this just shows how important Snowflake is in the industry and how much the industry thinks of this very new product, but really innovative, the first data warehouse that was built for the cloud. And to complete our mix, our solution, we have Sisense. Again, a Gartner-rated business intelligence visualization solution. And with Sisense, you can take all the data from Snowflake, take other data from data sources, mash it up, and create very advanced analytics and actionable analytics. And that's what we'll show you this morning when we're doing the predictive analytics workflow, where we're bringing all these three solutions together. And we are really excited by these technologies and by these solutions. And just at the start of the next session, Avian, our delivery director, will also talk about our journey as to how come we've become involved with these great partners. And we're delighted to be unique in the Irish market to bring you this solution set. Just to quickly, again, just to remind you of the other two before we delve a bit deeper into Talend with Darren. So Snowflake is the cloud the cloud data platform. It's the first data warehouse that was built for the cloud. And I think when it started, that was its first iteration, was being a data warehouse in the cloud. But now with Snowflake, you can see how it can be used for data lakes, how it can be used for data engineering, data science, and actually some really cool innovations that Colin from Snowflake will talk about this morning about data exchange and secure exchange of data. And this has manifested itself recently in the new data marketplace, where Snowflake partners can sell or share their data through the Snowflake data marketplace in a secure manner. And that's a really, really innovative innovation that Colin will talk on. As I said, Sisense allows you to simplify complex data. So you can run data from anywhere to run everywhere. So whether you're a BI person who just wants to be able to create data modeling and analytics without coding, then Sisense has a solution for you. But if you're like Aditya, who's doing our demos this morning, and you like playing in SQL and Python and Java, then we also have the ability to do code-driven data transformations. And the big power of Sisense is the ability to have a hybrid data experience, being able to have both live data connections to data warehouses like Snowflake, but also the ability to use its own in-memory engine to process some of that other data inside Sisense to give a total lower cost of ownership experience delivery of your analytics for your organization. And Snowflake is a premium product that delivers premium analytics solutions. So our first session, I think I'm about on time, so we won't hold on too long, is the Talend Data Fabric to talk about from data chaos to trusted data. And I'm delighted to have Darren Brunt, who's the UK and Ireland pre-sales director from Talend, to support me on this session this morning. So when we talk about data chaos and we talk about data, why is it so important? Well, data can make or break your business. 60% of companies have an overall data health that's unreliable. So 60% of companies believe that data is not good enough. But that then lights up with that 90% of companies want to be data driven. They want to be a company that has a digital transformation, that are using data, but their data is not of a good enough level. And if this is the case, your company is in risk, big risk of going into real trouble. And an example of this, where data wasn't used properly, that actually had a serious impact on the company, is Target. Target is a US retailer with massive stores in the USA who decided to expand into Canada. So as part of that expansion, they then had to set up, like naturally, for a chain of stores, a data inventory to manage stock, to manage their products. But the actual data for that data inventory, for that stock inventory, wasn't good. And their systems were not up for it in the Canadian market. So by the end, they had to do manual stock checks and manual stock capture. And this meant that the company couldn't succeed. And actually, they then failed in the Canadian market with a 2.5 billion loss. So this is what happens when people get their data policies and their data usage wrong. Flip side of that is another company, Domino's Pizzas, that we all know. Domino's is a huge Talend customer, but they, a number of years ago, decided that they needed to be data focused and needed to be customer focused, and realized that the way customers were going to exchange information with Domino's was changing. So they then realized that they needed to change. So by doing a data change, by understanding their customers from a complete 360 view, by understanding how their customers were going to order pizzas, not just by the phone or by going into a shop, but also maybe by ordering while they're playing on their PlayStation or by their tablet or by their app. So they made sure that they understood the customer no matter what way they joined it, they made the order. so that then they knew what products were doing well, they knew how to grow their market. And that meant that Domino's has seen huge growth in their revenue, which has also led to huge growth in their stock price. So that's just two examples of how how data can make or break your business. So we talk about data chaos. This morning's session is about how data chaos can hamper trust in data. So what is data chaos in your organization? Do you have data chaos? Well, we think most organizations do. In a lot of cases now, large enterprises have more than 400 data sources. So 400 different systems that they get data from. And in a lot of cases, more than 6 tools are used to get that data, to work with that data, to exchange that data. That's a very expensive and inefficient way to work. This also then leads to what we call the shadow IT, where you have departments and sub-departments in organizations creating their own IT projects, creating their own IT systems, increasing the silos, increasing the data sources. And this leads to a huge cost on companies in having to run multiple IT groups and multiple IT solutions. And these costs are seen at the minute at being in the region of 1.5 trillion. $1.5 trillion. Again, if you have bad data, you're going to, as we've seen with Target, it's going to impact your revenues. In a lot of organizations today, we're seeing up to 75% of data not being used, and that 30% of revenue is being lost because of bad data. 30% drop. Like, we're in very challenging times at the minute. If you were to then to tell someone at a CEO level that bad data is causing you 30% drop in revenue, what will that CEO do? And finally, we've seen with, we all talk about data transformations, and we as a company are saying to everybody, you need to do your digital transformation. But actually, most digital transformation projects fail. They fail because they're built on moving sand. They're built because they haven't got the data principles correct. And actually, only 10% of data or digital transformation projects actually meet their expectations. Again, that's because these projects are operating in data chaos. They're not operating in a good sphere. They're not coming in with good grounding and where their data is. So with data chaos, if this causes your data to become limited, not all relevant data is considered. It can be confusing, so it's difficult to understand because you don't know where the information is coming. You don't know the precedence of it or where it came from. It could also be outdated. You could have reporting off data sets that haven't been updated in months. And it could be inaccurate because actually you're not getting the full picture and you're not getting the correct information. And of course, this all means that the data and the reports and the results are all unreliable. So if there is data chaos in your organization, this impacts every aspect of your business. So like, these are some of the examples on the screen. I won't go into them all, but if you're looking at it from a business as an analyst, analysts are making decisions on incomplete data. So we all talk about garbage in, garbage out. If you're doing a report, doesn't matter how good the BI system, doesn't matter how pretty the dashboard is, if the data coming in isn't good, then the answers aren't good. At the data architect's point of view, they spend a huge amount of time working with silos, with disparate tools, disparate sources, and then a lot of effort trying to make data work. And then this all means then for the executives, a huge cost for managing data. So it means a very expensive organization, and you're not getting the value, you're not getting the returns. But what if you could find trust amidst this data chaos? What, like Domino's, you could transform your customer experience? What about if you could increase operational efficiency? So instead of having data costing you money, you've data saving you money. And what about in this GDPR world, you were able to reduce risk and ensure compliance because you knew where all your data was, you know who was accessing it, you know who was using it. And then if you have all these good foundations, you could innovate faster and you could get an edge on your competition. And that's why we talk about the 5 T's of trusted data. So having thorough data that is clean and complete, that's transparent, that is accessible and understandable. You know where it came from, you know if it's good, bad, you know how good a quality it is. That it's timely, that's readily available. Having a report that takes a month to generate, what's the use? You need to be able to have reports that are helping you make decisions today. And we want to make sure the data is traceable so that you know where it came from and how it's being used. We've seen this with organizations who are reporting on information that's bad and actually avoiding the information that's good. And then you want it to be tested, that it has been certified, and that there's a trust over that data, that people believe that the reports are good, that they believe that the analytics is based on solid. And I'd like to now hand over to Darren. I'd like to welcome Darren and thank him for coming on this morning onto our session. Morning, Darren.
Yeah, morning, Kieran. How are you doing? So thank you for that. Let me just share my screen to make sure that you're seeing the correct screen here. So do you see my screen okay?
No, I may not be able to, but I'm in presenter mode, so maybe.
I know, Garrett, you see my screen okay?
Yeah, all good from Tanya. Yep.
Okay, great.
I can, yeah.
So thanks, Kieran. So yes, thanks for the great introduction. I like the analogy of trying to build a skyscraper on sand. So so what is the path to enable trusted data? Trusted data becomes the foundation of your business activities. Without trusted data, you can't do trusted reporting. Without trusted reporting, you can't make trusted judgments. So let's just explore some of the aspects of how we can enable that path to trusted data. So we at Talend believe that a data fabric, this concept of a data fabric, can help organizations rapidly build out data management and data governance practices to deliver trusted data throughout the enterprise. This data fabric concept is a framework of data management and governance capabilities delivered as persona-based self-service applications that enable the business and IT stakeholders to collaborate and make data a team sport. As we've seen across many organizations, data is no longer an IT problem. Consumers are mostly in the business. So providing a foundational capability to enable business and IT to collaborate means that we can make data a team sport and enable both stakeholders to embark on the concept of trusted data. So Talend Data Fabric enables organizations to do just that, build foundational aspects of trust in their data, to build data management and governance practices that help them ultimately achieve clarity, agility, and compliance. The ability to ensure rapid access, integration, and qualitative data flowing through your organization, but done so under a governed regime, enables organizations to deliver fast and accurate information from all data sources to all intended consumers. And that helps organizations, drive some key business outcomes. If we can simplify the acquisition of data, if we can simplify the process of data accountability and ownership, we can free up people within the organization to focus on higher value activities, such as looking for insights in data, driving out new decisions and capabilities, and freeing them up from the traditional, quagmire of looking for data and sorting out data ready for reporting or analytics. And ultimately, all of this, helps organizations improve productivity and reduce costs. So, the acquisition and the use of data today cannot, from a cost model perspective, simply grow linearly. We have to look at ways of reducing the cost of adoption of data, but also the cost of use of data. So any platform that enables and simplifies the acquisition and use of data and consumption of data to democratize it as a capability within an organization has got to be good news, because we cannot continue with the linear costs of data acquisition. So this data fabric is this ubiquitous weave of interconnected systems that deliver the right data at the right time to the right consumers that require it. But how does this journey actually start? So we start the journey to trusted data by using something called data inventory. So within the Talend Data Fabric, this concept of a data inventory provides a single point of data intelligence of all of your data assets in your data estate. The ability to connect to these data assets and automate this concept of a trust score. So within Talend, you'll hear us talk, quite considerably about the concept of a trust score. The ability to automatically and intelligently score data assets with a view of the qualitative completeness and accuracy elements of the data to give a sense of the trust score. How trustworthy is this data? Who else is using this data? Through social curation, who else has voted on this set of data as a useful and trusted source of data? So by using all of these joint capabilities to drive a compound scoring means that people start to understand where data is used, what the data contains, and probably more importantly, what the issues are with the data and how they might go about fixing it. So data inventory helps take cut the time to find the data and consume the data you need, But obviously, data is not always in the shape or form that you want to use it in. So having access to data and understanding what it is and what's wrong with it is just the start of the journey. Clearly, we need to look at some governed self-service capabilities to drive data accountability and social curation of data so that we can actually invite people to curate and improve the data assets themselves. And that's what I want to try and show in the demonstration that we're coming up with here. The concept of, how do I go about, creating, trustworthy data? So let me just switch screens here. Imagine in my little scenario here, I have, again, this is not an eye chart test, but just to give you some idea, I've been given a set of data. It represents some financial transactions. And as you can probably may just about see through this S3 bucket visualizer, there's a semicolon delimited file of what look like financial transactions. And as a data analyst, I'm being asked to drive some reporting from this particular set of data. But what does this data represent? How complete and accurate is it? And can I actually trust it to use it in my own reporting? So let's start this journey of introducing this existing data asset to the data inventory and the process of self-service governance to drive improvement in that data. So here I am going to log into the Talend Cloud, and Talend Data Inventory being one of the key applications in Talend Cloud. And immediately we in the data inventory app, you can see on the datasets page here a whole raft of existing data assets that we know about, and associated with them all sorts of metrics and attributes about what they are, where they sit, how long they've been created, but most importantly these aspects of the front here. You can see here we have this nominal concept of a trust score or a trust score index, and you can see some of these data sets have a trust score of 3.48 out of 5. Others may have slightly lower 2.69 out of 5 trust scores. The data inventory is automatically assessing this trust score index on a wide variety of calculations and attributes, and then giving some high-level indicators to consumers about what this data might represent. So in this particular case, this is some sort of performance data. We can see that it's not particularly trustworthy. And if we hover over these bars here, we can see that actually 48% of that data set is empty, and well, 331 values in that data, which is small enough to round down to 0%, but 331 values in that data set are invalid. So these little indicators are giving us a high-level scorecard of what that data set contains, but most importantly, where there's absence of data or whether there's invalid data. So let's go and actually connect to our financial data that we want to start reporting on and see what the inventory makes of it. So also in the inventory, I might point out there's the concept of semantic types. So we have a semantic engine in inventory, which is sampling the data and trying to semantically tag all of the data attributes and data values. So the idea that even if a schema defines data in a certain way, by semantic tagging, we can understand if the data is actually being used in the way in which it's declared. And also the concept of custom attributes, where we can add custom attributes to data sets to add additional metadata to define and describe what these data assets represent. But first, let's go and connect to our financial data in our S3 bucket. We have a number of existing connections. Let's just search to see if we have any connections related to S3. There appear to be a couple of connections related to S3. Let's take a look at this particular connection here. An S3 connection for the Acme Corporation, that represents me. Let's just check to make sure this connection to the S3 estate is active. It is active. So now that I know that that connection is good, I can actually go and add my data set on this connection. So I'm going to call my data set supporters demo. Okay, within my S3 estate, let's just go back here. This data is in a bucket called hvicaria. So let's just use type down in the UI here. We're into hvicaria, and the object name is in Acme demo supporters.csv. That's the name of the file that you can see here in the actual S3 bucket. Okay, now I could take a look into that file in some S3 browser or whatever and try and figure out how it's delimited, whether it has a header or whatever. But I can actually ask the inventory to go auto detect, what this data is, what the delimiters are, whether it has a header, all sorts of capabilities in here. So what the inventory has found out, that this is a CSV file. It has a semicolon delimiter. It's ISO 8859 encoding. It has a header. But more importantly, I can just view a sample of this data to make sure I'm connecting to the thing that I think I should be connecting to. So here we reach out to the resource. In this case, it's an S3 bucket, but could be a wide variety of different sources. And here we can see an Excel or grid-like view of, if I just go back, what was messy indeterminate data in a grid-like view, giving me a sense of what the data is, but also showing me from a semantic point of view how this data is tagged. So I can see things like title or titles, and we have forenames and surnames and all sorts of different semantic tagging on the data. As importantly, the sample's showing me where we have gaps in data, where we have invalid data, such as the orange line here, and also where we have anomalies or outliers or white noise or whatever in the data. So this looks like the data set that I want to work with, but already I can tell there potentially are some issues in terms of completeness and accuracy of the data that I need to work on. So let's just validate this. And as I do this validation, I can go and add a description of the data. This is my Acme supporter financial donations, for example. I can go and add some tags to it. I might already have some tags. This is for analytics. What else? There may be some custom tags in here. I don't know. Maybe I'll add a tag to say this is a demo. So this is demo data, okay? And at the same time, there may be custom attributes that have already been defined that help me define, what the business purpose is of this data, or whatever has already been defined as part of our custom attributes that I can help further augment the data. So, I'm saying that this is financial information. For example, if it is financial information, I can, automatically suggest it contains PII, but I don't actually know yet, okay? Whilst I've been automatically and adding metadata to this data set, the system has been working out what the trust score is on our financial donation information. So here we can see 14.6 of the data percent has invalid values, around 20% is empty, and around 66% of the data looks to contain valid data. And if you add all of that together and compound that together in our rating system, at the moment this data set has a trust score of 3.02. Okay, so I don't know what what might be wrong with this data yet, and I don't know how to go about fixing it. But at the moment, we've automatically defined that this has a rating of 302 out of 5. So it's not bad, but it's not particularly good. So what is it that I can do about trying to define and decide what to do about improving this data? So when I look at the actual full data set, I can start to see the data in all of its glory. So what we can see here is that our original schema that defines at the top line here all of the definitions of the data columns, and then the semantic typing associated with it from the semantic engine that defines what we think the data might represent. So here you can see that we have this unique identifier of a supporter or a donator in this file. And semantically, we've defined, our supporter ID as a 9-digit identifier. Now, if this is a supporter ID, then the system's saying that we have 2 invalid values in this data. Okay. And if we also move along here, we can see, for example, things like the forename, is a completely 100% empty. So it's an invalid, it's an empty column and a redundant column, in the data. I can also see that, for instance, surnames, if we consider these as census last names, then there's some anomalies that aren't in our census from a semantic point of view. If I scroll further along, there are further anomalies down here with, things like these aren't UK towns and these aren't, well, it's wrongly semantically tagging this as a census last name when clearly this is a country name. So there's things I need to do, on this data. Okay, there are things that I can improve on this data set, so I can improve its trust score and actually re-add it to the inventory once I've gone through that process. So what I want to do is actually, as a data owner, is add what we call in Talend a preparation to this data. A preparation is a way of showing intent of what I want to do with this data set to repair it, augment it, improve it, or add to its qualitative aspects. So what I'm going to do is create a preparation automatically on top of and connect that preparation to this data set. So data preparation takes us into the same view of the data that we just saw within the inventory, but now I have the ability to apply features and functions to the data to show the intent of how I wish to improve the data itself. Now, in data preparation, we are not changing the data. Okay, we're creating a view of intent about how we want the data to look once the process is industrialized around how we run this preparation against the original data set. So data preparation here is a self-service data wrangling, data blending tool. But the challenge with self-service tools is without regulation and without governance, you actually help reinforce the shadow IT that Kieran was talking about. The idea that you put powerful tools in the hands of individuals who go off and do their own thing and start creating unmanaged, unguarded, unsecured sets of data, and then start proliferating those across the organization without some central authority or point of governance. So here we are in data preparation, providing the capabilities to a data owner to start working with the data, but actually only showing the intent of what they wish to do with it. It has to go through an approval process to apply that intent to the data and then create an updated data set as a result. And I'll show you that process a little later on. So here within data preparation, we can see for every column we select, there's a histogram chart of what the values are in this data. So the support ID is going to be presumably quite a wide variety of data. So we've got 551 items in this data. We've got some duplicates. There's huge variance and mins and maxes because obviously it's a long integer. But more importantly, if I look at the pattern, so the pattern is going to show me what the regex pattern or regular expression pattern is for this data. So here I can see that the majority of my data, 549 of the 551 rows, are in this fixed 9-digit format, but I have some outliers of longer formats, and that's what's being shown here as the 2 invalid values in my supporter ID. So immediately I start to get to analyze data at a column level or a row level to try and understand where anomalies might be, and the system is telling me from a semantic tagging and analysis point of view, where the errors might be in my data. So let's just drill into those invalid rows and see what these invalid supporter IDs actually look like. So immediately I can see here when I filtered on invalid supporter IDs, it looks like I've got trailing zeros and leading zeros, on these delinquent supporter IDs. So data preparation is all about applying functions or capabilities to the data to start improving them. So if we look on the right-hand side here, we can see a huge list of functions and capabilities that I can apply to whatever data is currently in scope on the left-hand side. And as I apply these functions, we build up this concept of a recipe or a preparation of steps that we'd like to apply to the data. So let's just see if there's a function for trimming. Well, there's a function for removing and trailing leading characters. Seems like a good thing to use. What's the padding character we want to remove? Well, actually, it's a 0 in this case. And before I actually do anything, I can hover over this submit button, and the system runs a preview of what would happen to that data if I apply this function. So what you can see in the green boxes on the left-hand side is if I were to apply this function, it looks like it would trim those supporter IDs very nicely, back into their 9-digit formats, which would then make them compliant, with the semantic type of supporter ID, and therefore give me a total green score on that column. So let me submit that intent. And as you'll see, the system starts building up on the left-hand side all of the actions that I apply on my data. So let me just get rid of this filter. And then when the system refreshes, we'll see that all of our supporter IDs are now 100% valid. But I've got this activity on the left-hand side that records that action. Okay, I'm just going to collapse that as I move through the rest of this data. So let's just move through. In terms of title, it looks like we've got some missing titles. Let's just look at the variation in patterns, in values. So we've got Mr., Miss, Mrs., Ms., empty, and Doctor. So there's just some empty titles in here. Probably not a huge issue. We can probably fix that via reach out or whatever it might be. Forename. This is a completely empty column. It might be that we might want to remove these columns if they're not being used, but for the moment at least recognize that we have redundant data in this column. When we look at surname here, if I just move across, what you can see is how the system from a semantic engine point of view is scoring the semantic type of data it's finding. And here you can see that we are 63.34% sure that the data in this column is some sort of census last name, and only 42% sure that it might be a census, a normal last name. And then you can see, we're only 22% sure it might be a city, a US city, and so on and so forth. Now, because this is an international set of data by the looks of it, and the census last names may be regionalized, I'm just going to repurpose the semantic tagging of this data to say, actually, this is just a general last name. It's not a census last name, it's a general last name. And let's just see what improvement that might make in terms of the compliance of the data. Okay, so if we consider this just a general last name, we're now completely compliant with the set of data. And so a data owner or data accountability owner would run through data preparation, looking at all of these highlights here to determine what to do about the data. So, for example, this date of birth, it's wrongly tagged that semantically as a print sequence, but we can train the system to say, this isn't a print sequence, this is actually just a date. So the next time it sees, date of birth, in this column, in this set of data, it knows to retag it as a date and not a print sequence or whatever that might be. But whilst we're actually looking at dates, anyone who's a developer in the audience, if we just look at the pattern and the perennial issue of date formats, here you can see that our dates are in DDMM, YYY, but also a mixture of other formats. So getting consistency in dates for comparisons or reporting is clearly absolutely key. And here you can see on the right-hand side that the preparation is asking or suggesting what I might want to do with this date. Well, do you want to change the date format? Yeah, let's do that. So what's the current format? Well, it's a mixture. You guess because you know. What's the new format? Well, I want to make it a British standard. And if I hover over here, again, it show me where I'm going to apply changes to dates. Again, it's just saying the entire column will be updated. Okay, so let's just move along here. We can see here we've got invalid email addresses in this data set. Let's just take a look at how bad they are. See if there's anything we can do to recover them. Here we can see in filtering bad email addresses, there are things like missing domains, missing @ symbols, all sorts of delinquent email addresses. Now, if I was running an email campaign to contact these people, clearly I can't do that from here. I might go and delete them. But for the moment, I'm just going to leave those in. I'm just trying to do analytics on the data. I'm not a marketing campaign. But if this was a marketing campaign, you might wish to remove these data items, or indeed run a reach out campaign to go contact all these people to go get their valid email address. All right, let's just whiz along here. Then in terms of the address itself, we can see that UK town seems to be a bit of an issue. And again, for some reason, all the UK towns are all capitalized. So the way in which we like to address all of our data, we use a thing called title case, for example. So if I want to convert this into title case, which is just using the first letter capitalized and everything else lowercase, by doing that, you can now see I've got much more compliance with the concept that this is a UK town. Now, Wirral and Thornton Cleveland or whatever, may or may not be UK towns. It might be that if they are true, well, Wirral's an area, but if this was a UK town, we might then add it, to our semantic dictionary, for example. And so on and so forth. So I can go on repurposing this. This is a language code. And I might want to do then multiple selections. For example, I might take all of my address line and just say I want to, trim any white space out of here. You can see that on the county there looks to be a load of white space. So let's just submit that, see if we can get rid of our white space. Again, if we're doing anything with concatenating or parsing of address component parts, white space is a challenge. So we've got rid of all of that white space there. And the data owner would just move through this, doing all of these capabilities. One last thing I want to do is it might be that we're pushing this information to external call-out centers. I might want to, from a phone number, for example, I know, make this format the phone number to an international standard. So again, these are all English or British numbers, so they'll be prefaced with +44, for example. Okay, so now it might be that my preparation is complete. Now my supporters demo preparation is here. Okay, I haven't changed the underlying data. What I have done though, if I just come back into the preparation, is recorded a whole series of activities on the left-hand side here of what I want to do to improve this data set. Okay, I'm going to publish my preparation. I'm going to move it into the published directory. okay, to indicate that, this is now ready for enablement as part of an operational process. Now, as I mentioned, operationalization is a key thing within Talend. So very quickly, a data engineer would receive that preparation notification and build a process to take our S3 data set, apply the preparation that we've just published, and run the preparation against that data set to create a new output. And that new output, we're actually going to push back into the data inventory as a new sanctioned set of data. So if I just come back into the inventory data sets, I'll wait for that to finish. There we go, it's just finished. And at the top of my list here, you see something called supporter sanction. This is a machine generated. The T for Talend here shows that it's a machine generated set of data. So from a trusted data engineering source. And if I drill into this data set, I might want to say, well, I'm going to certify this. It's my favorite set of data. It's I love it, and I can even go into the data set and just review that it's actually done what we thought it had done. So all of our supporter IDs are neat and tidy. Our contact telephone numbers are all internationalized, etc., as we go through, and all of our UK towns are lowercase, etc. Okay. So what we've done as part of that process is actually now improved the trust score to 3.26 out of 5. Still work to do. There's still a lot of empty data in this data, but I've shown how hopefully we can use the process of the data inventory to initially look at data preparation to apply change to the data, and then industrialize those change and drive new data sets back into the inventory as part of a governed process. Okay, so let's get back to the PowerPoint here. So Talend Data Fabric helps many organizations solve their data challenges. And just a few examples here, and you'll see a few more later on. So for example, Accor, the 6th largest global hotel chain, basically embarked on a huge transformation project to store all their data in an AWS data lake and drive deep analytics in Snowflake to look at their customer retention, customer intimacy, and customer upsell processes. So storing 50 million customers, 300 gigabytes of data per day being recorded, in the Snowflake data warehouse, Talend enables them to increase, all of their customer touch points and satisfaction to drive a 12% improvement in customer satisfaction rates, because we're showing them that we know them as customers because of the deeper analytics and aggregation of data we're able to do in Snowflake. AstraZeneca, probably a name you've heard recently for all the wrong reasons, I'm sure, but all the right reasons if everything happens. So AstraZeneca, yet again, another organization driving a huge business transformation project, again, in this case, building an enterprise data lake on AWS S3. But Talend helps them scale the way in which they ingest data to that lake, scales the way in which they process data in that lake, and ultimately drives benefits downstream in terms of all sorts of different business behavior. So with Talend, we've enabled 90% of the data in that lake to be ready for analysis within 3 minutes, where it used to take weeks, if not months, to do. And we've shortened their whole planning cycles for clinical trials down from 15 days to 3 hours. And when you're driving clinical trials, specifically at a time like now, time is of the essence. And I guess the key thing here is that for every hour we shave off a clinical trial, we actually save AstraZeneca significant amounts of money. So the whole point here is we're not just accelerating the way in which operational business can be managed, but actually driving savings at the same time. And there are other examples here, such as Ariba and AB InBev, a large beverage manufacturer, whereby the use of trusted data and agility of accessing and using that data in the enterprise helps drive all sorts of other innovative and compliance benefits. So I've talked a lot about the concept of this Talend Trust Score. The idea that you can actually, at a glance, take a look at the qualitative aspects or the trustworthy aspects of data. And again, it's worthwhile understanding the value of this to organizations as they look to try and identify delinquent data in their organizations and drive improvement across them. So one of the things that I'd like you to potentially do is take a note of the URL at the bottom here, www.talend.com/trustassessor. What that'll allow you to do is actually try this out for yourself. it'll enable you to engage with us and provide some sample data for us to run the trust assessment score across, give you an analysis back, showing you, how trustworthy the data is, how complete it is, how accurate it is, where data quality issues or duplication issues, etc., exist in your data. And just for reference, we do not persist the data that you submit to us. We actually run it in memory in the cloud, and the report is only generated in the moment. So at the moment you do that, the report is generated and then lost or discarded afterwards. So I highly encourage you to take a look at that and see how your data is complying with the concept of a trust score, and hopefully there's a conversation that we can have if indeed you're not meeting expectations. So finally, I want to say thank you on behalf of IMGS and Kieran and all of our customers and partners that help Talend, drive global success in large organizations and small alike. Thanks for your time today, and we're here to take questions throughout the morning.
Thanks, Darren. That's really excellent. So that's our first session. I think a big thing in a lot of customers I've worked with over the last few years, we are definitely seeing this issue where analytics projects have failed because of problems with the underlying data, and that level of trust is just isn't there, and that has caused these issues. And I think this is a really exciting innovation from Talend, and we're delighted to be able to bring it to the Irish market. I think there will be a lot of interest. And we did a small poll, and I think most people admitted, one or two didn't, that their data isn't that trustworthy, but I think it has been there are a lot of issues out there, and we actually had some small examples where we got good data, and then we ran it through these kind of analysis, and then people going, oh, we didn't get as good of an answer as we had thought before. So
I think one of the key things here is discovering the unknown unknowns. So there may be the perception that your data is complete and good quality, but actually running analyses like this help you define some of the unknown unknowns, and those are where the risks exist.
Exactly, and that's it, definitely. Well, Darren, I know you have another session to go to. You're busy man. So what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to finish. And if you can stop sharing, Darren, I can share on this side if you haven't already.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. And if I just do a quick screen share here, I think my camera might be not picking me up, but if that's the case, it's okay. I think most people have seen enough of me over the years. So what's going to happen now is we're going to take a very short 10-minute break. So everybody go get a coffee or tea or whatever your preference is. I'm going to get a biscuit. I'm going to raid the IMGS cookie jar. And while we're off for these 10 minutes, please go to the expo. If you visit our partner booths, you will get some nice goodies in the post, and there's some very good information. So Talend have information there about the trust score, about data inventory, about the data fabric. Sisense have information about the product set, and Snowflake. And you'll meet some of the guys from Sisense, Snowflake, and some of Darren's team are in the Talend booth as well. So please go there. We'll be back at 10:25. Avian will then talk about IMGS's journey to how we've come to our solution, and then we'll talk about predictive analytics, and then we'll hopefully get you away on time and get back to the rest of your day. So please come back after the coffee break. We're just going to get a quick few minutes just to give you a chance to get a bit of a light refreshment, and then we'll start up again. And as I said, please go to the expo. The SL events event will continue to run as we're here, and then we'll be back in the main lobby on the main stage then at 10:25. Thank you. See you in a bit. Thanks,
everyone.
Thanks, Darren. Have a good day.